Thursday, April 30th, the St. Lucia Jazz and Arts Festival 2026. Opening night ignites at the Micoud Park, and we're blazing the trail with the King of Fire, Capleton.
Say more fire. Slew them up, be feelings them a carry. Them done bow already and then
Capleton.
Jaja City, Jaja Town, them off it on it in a cowboy town.
Smooth and melodic Diani. Dancehall's bold new voice, Valiant. The King of Bouillon, Asa Bantan. Country power with international stars.
You say that your new love's not
Amber Digby. St. Lucian country icons L.M. Stone and Siobhan Seeley. Plus a special tribute to Kaiso legends. Thursday, April 30th at the Micoud Park. Be there. Tickets online at stluciajazzandartsfestival.com and physical tickets at regular outlets.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the press. We thank you for being here once more. As you know, St. Lucia has entered one of its most anticipated seasons, the St. Lucia Jazz and Arts Festival. And this is a stage where culture, community, and commerce meet on the same stage. Last weekend, we saw the hosting of Hills and Valleys Jazz in Bexar, and over the weekend, the community of Micoud set the tone with Jazz of Vierge, a reminder that this festival is no longer confined to a few headline venues, but is alive in the heart of our communities. This Thursday, April 30th, the official opening of the season moves to Marcia, another deliberate choice by the Peer Administration to bring jazz to the people. The government of St. Lucia has taken a clear, people-centered approach to the Jazz and Arts Festival, which is not just about entertainment, but about access and opportunity. Community jazz is about ensuring that the economic benefits generated by the events accrue to the residents in the areas where the events are staged. For years, the St. Lucia Jazz and Arts Festival carried strong national branding, but uneven community penetration. Under the Peer Administration and under the leadership of Honourable Dr. Ernest Hilaire, who is the Minister for Tourism, that has changed and it is still evolving. By bringing jazz into communities such as Bexar, Micoud, and Marcia, and other communities, the government is widening participation, giving local vendors, creatives, and small businesses and residents a direct stake in the season. Now, what does that look like? It means the food vendor in Micoud now sees an increase in their sales. It means the young artist in Micoud gets a platform. It means the taxi driver, the hairstylist, the small shop owner all feel the ripple effects of the national event. And importantly, it reshapes how we define success, not just by crowd size, but by who benefits. As we look ahead to the official launch, The focus remains clear: expanding the footprint of jazz, deepening its community impact, and ensuring that its economic benefits are felt where they matter the most, among the people. Now, to brief us on this year's Jazz and Arts Festival, I now invite Honourable Dr. Ernest Hilaire, who is also the Deputy Prime Minister, the Minister for Tourism, Commerce, Investment and Creative Industry, Culture and Heritage.
Thank you very much. I think for an introduction like this, it's probably left more to take questions. I think it was certainly an introduction covering the complete spread of the Jazz and Arts Festival, in addition to what we've had thus far, Inspiration Jazz from Bexor and Vierge in Micoud yesterday. The arts component has already started. On Saturday, Friday night and Saturday night, we had, as part of the Icon series, the culinary feast in honor of Chef Harry. I attended on Saturday night, and I can tell it was a fantastic evening. I mean, the chefs really made us proud in terms of the quality of the food, and of course the music, the culture was certainly inspiring. There have been many calls by various, persons that we should probably have a similar event every year, that the exposure of our culinary, creatives, the chefs, probably should feature as part of the arts festival, in much the same way that spoken word, for example, has become a permanent feature. And something that we certainly will consider doing. Of course, those of you who are following the calendar, tonight we have the theater. We have the Mighty Sparrow musical starting tomorrow night, and I think later on we have the play by Kendall Hippolyte. Travis Wicks is tonight. The play tonight is by Travis Wicks, but there's also a play by Kendall Hippolyte. And I can't recall ever in Central we had free theatrical productions going on, within the same period of time, which says a lot for how this is evolving. And of course, the spoken word is on what day? On Monday. Of course, it's part of that movement. And we've also come a long way in terms of spoken word as well in St. Lucia. So, I mean, it's really getting up to be an exciting season for us. And on Friday, well, we have the opening on Thursday. On Friday, we have Ancillary. Of course, Fiscal Force will be at Lucia in Ancillary, the new creative art space that we've established there. We'll be having 2 shows back to back. Friday night, we also have Strozel Jazz. Saturday, we have Soufre. Sunday, we have breakfast in Sulphur Springs. The Soufre Events Committee is hosting a breakfast there. And on Sunday, we also have Vieux-Fort, Fordor, and Babono. So it's going to be a very busy weekend. And of course, next week we start, spoken word. We have Pure Jazz Tuesday and Thursday, Kingdom Night on Wednesday, and the main stage the following weekend. Again, yesterday, Vierge, and I'm sure the Parliamentary Representative will say more about the experience and how important the event was for the community of Micoud. But the venue really showed that it has tremendous potential, and the calls are increasing for us to have a main stage show at the venue. It would require quite a lot of upgrades still to be made. It's still very greenfield, but we are going to have discussions with the Micoud Council and the Parliamentary Representative, and to see what upgrades we can do to the area. And again, I'll also say to you, and I think I mentioned it some time ago, at the end of this festival, we're going to do a rethink. After 5 years of bringing it back, recovering from Soleil, we really need to take stock again of where we are and where we want it to go. We still want to see the community festivals especially the music ones, as a feeder for our local talent. I was really happy yesterday to see the number of local acts we had, at Vierge, and we want to see the communities really bringing up local talent and exposing local talent, to St. Lucia. And of course, we want the local communities to incorporate more artistic expressions. So we're not seeing enough of that. It's expanded this year. Ancillary will have spoken word by Fish, but we want to see, more, other expressions taking place in the communities, not just music, and not spending the resources on having, foreign, artists and bigger shows. Yes, that brings in resources and they are needed, but we also want it to become a genuine jazz and arts festival. So we're going to take stock again and review it and see how we can push that agenda forward. But yeah, it's going to be exciting for the next 2 weeks. And of course, once that ends, we go straight to the Calypso tent and into Carnival. So those of you already exhausted, we still have a lot more, to come. But I was really pleased with yesterday, really pleased with yesterday. And Saturday, like I said, with the dinner, the Icon Series dinner, that too was very special. So I'll take your questions now, if you don't mind. Yes, sir.
Right, thank you. Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
2 questions. So first of all, it seems that we're beginning to perfect, or at least significantly improve on our jazz festival, not only in the scale of it, but getting into the communities, arts in the city, making it an event for the people. So I have to ask, other Caribbean countries, for example, Barbados and Trinidad, have hosted events like Carifesta, have invested into having larger theater spaces. Is St. Lucia gearing itself up to be able to host a regional event like that, or to improve its resources? Like you said, we have 3 plays going on. What are the plans for a regional level theater in St. Lucia?
Yeah, I mean, we have been discussing it, and I've had quite a lot of discussions towards the establishment of a national cultural center or creative center. That is still a little way off, maybe by 2 to 3 years. Hopefully, I was hoping by budget we'd be able to have given a more definitive statement on this. But maybe, God spare, next year we should be able to, or even before that, to do so. We have looked at the Carifesta and what's possible, what's not possible. We need to broaden the discussion with stakeholders and to actually take a look at it. I think we need to have a lot more creative spaces, and that's why, for example, we encourage what happened at the park, Serenity Park. We know the Cultural Development Foundation established a small space, on Kampong. We know Ancillary, but these are still very small, and we need to have some major spaces, like you said, that can host. When you think about it, the largest facility we have to host now is the Pavilion, and then Royalton's Ballroom. Hopefully by the ending of next year, we will have Isla Conference Center, which will house 2,000 persons. It will be a state-of-the-art facility, but it's going to be a space on Kampong, on the resort, and not a public space in a sense. So we have to think seriously about it, because if we're going to host something like Carifesta, it's going to be massive, and the idea of renting tents for millions of dollars is probably not the preferred option, but this is something we're thinking about. Yeah.
Thank you. Second question. As we prepare for more jazz events, some members of the public are saying that most people who attend the jazz events are there because there is a large portion of complimentary tickets being given out rather than sales. Can you say anything to debunk that notion?
Let me tell you, I rather spend my energies talking about the content and the quality of production than whether there were a lot of comps. And I think last year I dealt with this in a press conference, and I was saying, just think about it. You have 17 parliamentarians. You give each of them, say, 30, 40 tickets, as comps. Do the maths already. That's 500 plus. Just say you have 30. We have about 40 to 50 sponsors that sponsor in one way or the other. You give each sponsor about 10 tickets, 10 to 15 tickets. That's about 700 tickets. That's 1,200 already. That's between giving each parliamentary rep, about 20, 30 tickets. My list of persons who want complimentary tickets from my constituency is over 100 already. And I will not get 100 tickets. So just think about that. So if you just add sponsors, you add parliamentary reps, and you add senior public servants and state agencies that assist, in different ways. By the time you finish, you're close to 2,000 comps already. And these are not just given away frivolously. These are people that have association who provide services, and some people who just give you assistance in kind, and they want an invitation. And let me tell you, anybody who knows about hosting events know that you have to give complimentary tickets. So sometimes I hear people say that, you give tickets, so many complimentary tickets. Giving away 2,000 complimentary tickets for an event that has 14,000 people, 13,000 people is not exceptional. I can tell you last year, we made the most money from ticket sales. Can't tell you the exact amount, but it was a record performance for us. Well, for the last 2 years, I don't expect this year to be as strong as last year and the year before, for obvious reasons. But we had some very strong performances in terms of our ticket sales. And what we noticed that really helped us were the online ticket sales. So, quite a few people who were traveling bought the tickets in advance, whatnot, and we had an exceptional year in terms of ticket sales. So, I wish I would get some more comps for myself.
Me too.
Yeah. There's two things I wish. Either I can put a notice on Facebook, on Instagram saying I have no comps, so don't ask me, which of course I cannot do. And the second one is that SLTA would give me some more comps. So Chairman Antoine and Chairman Darwin Gard and Whitfield and them, please give me some more so I can give out, because I'm under a lot of pressure. I've not even put out tickets to some of my friends.
In the media.
Yeah.
Good morning, Mr. Minister. A couple of questions from me.
Yeah.
We started talking about Jazz at Vierge yesterday, a wonderful event, as you mentioned. But you also hinted about the possibility of developing the site in terms of hosting a main stage event. I'm sure the rep will be well pleased with that. But naturally, there would be some concerns, as there were several years ago when we started making adjustment to Pigeon Point and having to cut down trees and all that. I recognized yesterday, for example, some excavation had to be done for the placement of the stage. What is the thinking going into that and striking the balance in terms of preserving the place and developing it so that it becomes a proper venue for hosting events?
Yeah, excellent question, but you'll notice we might have to plant trees there. Because the place is just, there are absolutely no trees there. It's just bare. And a few cactus, a few places. So what we're going to do is to bring in a couple of master planners, architects, and events people, and to sit down and come up with a concept. Where do we protect, for public use, everyday use? I would love to see they have a children's park in that area too, where the children can just go. There's so much land there. I mean, where we were yesterday is about 1/6. I mean, the place goes more than a mile into the sea. It's a really fantastic area. But we need to bring in experts. We need to speak to the council, speak to the parliamentary rep. It may be that we have to vest the land in a special entity, whether it is the council or whether it is a Micoud Development Foundation, because the place has tremendous potential. It doesn't have to, that can be a protected space. There's enough land to even build a couple of properties. There's so much that can be done, but I'm not a master planner. We'll bring in the master planners to take a look at it, design a road network for us, reserve certain areas for certain activities, and that place is really amazing. I mean, there's so much we can do with that place, and we should establish it now. So the process will start. In fact, we've said to the parliamentary rep, as soon as Jazz is finished, let's start that process.
Okay, I have two other questions kind of indirectly related to jazz. The first one in relation to the rideshare service. I recognize again yesterday one of the local rideshare services, Allies, was a sponsor of Jazz Vierge. But looking at we coming into main stage events, a lot of visitors coming in who are familiar with utilizing Uber. Where do we stand now with Uber operating in St. Lucia?
Well, we've sent a formal notice to Uber by letter, indicating what the government of St. Lucia position is in terms of establishing the legality of operations and meeting their statutory obligations. We've not gotten back a formal response from them, but we've engaged them, and because that is our responsibility as a government entity to indicate to them, if you're going to operate in St. Lucia, these are the things you must do. So let them respond to us. I'm sure the lawyers are reviewing it. From the other side, in terms of stakeholders, we have spoken to the National Taxi Union. We've explained to them the position we've taken, and they have their own processes that I cannot comment on. But for now, that's where we are. We have served Uber by letter of our position on operating in St. Lucia.
Also, you started off talking about the platform that the community jazz events provides for local creatives. But I just want to know where we, in December or November, I think it was, you spoke about the creative grant. I know a number of persons had applied for that. Where are we with that process right now?
Give me until Monday next week. I think we should start issuing, because I don't know if you know how government they operate. So the budget statement was approved last week. The Senate meets this week. Once everything, the bill is passed, we should be able to, once the bill is assented, government can start spending, monies will be, issued. Okay. So
the final question for me, you mentioned the amendment to the Trade License Act. Just expand on that.
Yeah. Again, this morning I had a meeting on it before coming here, and we're very clear in our minds that there is already a regime in place in St. Lucia right now, but it is not backed by law, by legislation. It is an executive policy decision. So we're going to ensure that the Act provides legal authority for a lot of what we're doing. But the thinking behind it is that there are certain business areas we want to reserve for St. Lucians. We want to protect St. Lucians and the space in those areas, and we want to ensure that our people can get governmental support. It may be that in the years to come you remove some of those protections because you believe your entrepreneurs are mature enough and they can survive on their own in that space against other investment. But when we speak about nationals in the context of investment, remember we're talking about CARICOM nationals and not St. Lucia nationals, because we are signatory to the Treaty of Chagamas and the Single Market and Economy. We have to treat every CARICOM person the same as a St. Lucian. So when we say protection, it's in the context of that single market and economy. But we really want to make sure that we reserve certain areas for St. Lucians for them to be able to thrive and to give them the government support to do so. So we've just finalized in the legislation to go to Parliament.
Okay, good morning, Minister. So just two questions from me. So as you said, with the increase, especially with jazz this year and such of a grander scale, as well, this week is the commencement of Junior Jazz as well in Serenity Park on Wednesday and Thursday. So my question would be, with Junior Jazz also commencing this week, a lot of people are asking, will we be able to see some of our young performers, our young artists as well during main stage in the near future? So
you mustn't skip a level, huh? You want to move from junior to main stage. There's a community jazz in between.
Right, but
still a good question.
We'll be able to see any of our young artists during community jazz as well as any main stage performances in the near future as well.
Well, I mean, we're going to make a major announcement soon about the main stage and some activities that will take place. But like I said, I'm just waiting for them to clear all the contractual issues and all the other issues. But it will be pleasing to St. Lucians when we make the announcement, because some of the international artists, will be doing some collabs and whatnot in different areas. I don't want to say too much, like I said, and speak out of turn. But you are right, and that's why we want the the community jazz to offer that opportunity. So some of the young violinists we have, some of the young artists we have, the musicians, we want to see them. And that's why we need to rethink the Jazz Festival in a way, because we need to give it a different twist. We want to see how we can incorporate. Already we're doing it, the spoken word and the other arts, in the pure jazz component, in the pure jazz. But how can we do it for the main jazz music as well, to bring in other creatives in the changeovers and whatnot, so we give them that kind of exposure. Another idea we've been toying around with, and we really have to start implementing it again in the new version moving forward, is a lot of pop-up performances. Have a real, all our, young musicians, performers, and just pop up at bars around St. Lucia and perform for 10-15 minutes and then move on to another bar. So maybe for a couple nights in St. Lucia, throughout St. Lucia, all popular hangout spots will have music and performances taking place. So young Vierge can go to 5 different spots, performing that night. And a jazz pianist can go. So the whole country for 2 nights at least can just be pop-up performances. Guys playing dominoes and then a saxophonist playing, and just create that vibe in the whole country. Of course, we're thinking of all those things to really make it more exciting. Even pop-up theatrical productions, half-hour production somewhere, But we're thinking it through, and we're really trying to come up with a model that is more developmental for our creative expressions. Now, some people will say, but wait, you're losing the focus on the international reputation, branding, exposure, arrival numbers, and everybody talks about arrival numbers these days. And I always remember when I first came here, I said to the media, I do not want to be judged by arrival numbers. I want to be judged by the quality of the numbers and what it brings and impacts, how it impacts our communities. And I still live by that. I don't want to be boasting that the numbers increased by 30%, and on the streets the average solution telling me, so what, how I benefit from that. I much rather show them how they benefited from numbers that come to St. Lucia. So we will be discussing a lot of that in the coming months.
Thank you. And my next question would be, I'll say kind of similar to ride sharing, but for the shuttles going on for this year, especially. Now I know for the past few jazz festivals, we had a situation where people go and have a designated parking area and they take the shuttles to the actual events. So for this year, is there going to be any specific changes, or is going to be anything similar to the previous year?
I'll tell you something. I haven't had experience in Cricket World Cup in 2007, the ICC World Tournament in 2010, and that time as tournament director. I've had a lot of exposure to planning those, the transportation aspect of it, both ingress and egress, whatnot. And having attended international events myself, you go to most international events, the World Cups and whatnot, you virtually have to walk sometimes a whole mile to get to the stadium. Literally walk from where the public transportation drops you and walk to the stadium, and how long you have to wait to even board a train to get away from a stadium. But we're different in this part of the world. People want to know that they park as close as possible to the venue, and they want to walk as little as possible. So you have a different mindset, and you have to plan and organize for different cultural habits and practices. I was really different. I even remember when we introduced Park and Ride for the 2007 World Cup. I can never forget those days. I mean, you talk about getting pressure. Now, in those days, we were getting pressure. They had a program called The Rumble. I'm sure Mr. Daisy will remember that and whatnot. You're young journalists. Called The Rumble. And let me tell you, when I first started talking about Park and Ride, a few fellas called and really give it to me. About Park and Ride, guys, a man want to come, but you say with the car, you tell them, they have to, and all kind of story. And that's the first time St. Lucians were really going into Park and Ride, whatnot. But in St. Lucia, the big takeaway for me in planning those things is, how do we get St. Lucians to just follow the directions and the instructions given? It works. It works. People would expect that as soon as they come out of the stage, the performance venue, and they walk outside to the car park, that's supposed to, the pickup spot that's supposed to take them to where the park is, it must be immediate. There must be vehicles, buses waiting for them. Now, when the first wave leaves, 20 buses leave, right? So they go and say you live by London's and you go into Darren-Summy. 20 buses leave with the first wave. That's just about 300 people. We still have about 10,000 to come out. You have to wait for those buses to come back. Now in Central, we don't have huge coasters that can move large numbers of people. We have omnibuses, 15-seaters at most. So you have to wait until that bus goes to Darren-Summy and comes back. Yeah? Now we have to make sure there's a clear passage so there's no hindrance to the bus. It can do it as quickly as possible. But you have to wait. People don't want to wait, so they start walking. And they see the bus coming up and they start flagging on the buses. And the drivers are not disciplined, they stop, they pick them up and go back with them. And the people that are there dutifully waiting start getting exasperated because they've been there so long and no bus is coming back because the bus is stopping along the route. So we have to tell the drivers and discipline them, do not pick up people on the road. Only pick up at pickup areas. And we have to tell people when there is a designated route for shuttles, do not use that route. You don't want police running after, on bikes trying to tell people, you're not supposed to be on that route. Everybody's thinking, I know a shortcut I can pass. Every solution knows a shortcut they can pass in. But if everybody just follow the instructions and the directions, the system will work. You might have to wait half an hour, 45 minutes, but that's normal when you go to a mass crowd activity of that nature. When you have, 8,000 people expecting to move to go to buses, it will take some time, but we're not disciplined enough in that way. Even I just do it sometimes. I always want to take little shortcuts or whatnot, but we're just not disciplined enough. But if you just wait and the traffic takes its time, it might be slower than normal, but you will get there in 20 minutes. You try and take a shortcut, take a back road, everybody knows a back road, and then you wait 2-3 hours because the traffic backs up. We solved one problem though. People used to just park alongside the road on the way to Pigeon Point. Now when you're coming out of Pigeon Point, and all along the road in front of you, people are coming out one by one. You know how long it's taking for you to eventually clear the road? So at least we've cleared that up. But we're going to continue to work on it. But the biggest issue is not the plans that we have, because the plans are beautifully laid out, is to get the mindset of the patrons in sync with what we're planning. And then we have Friday night, Groseley, when we have Friday night main stage. Now the Friday night show is usually the biggest show. So you can imagine people going to Groseley, and we use Groseley back road because we try to create a ring road, but then you start losing Groseley. So it's a little challenging, but we'll continue to work on it. But it's the biggest feeling of the event is always the traffic management. But I believe if individuals are disciplined more, it will work better. It worked in 2007, largely worked out, and we had a lot of people there. But again, you have to be disciplined. The ferry, but send me the ferries. And I tried to explain that to somebody up to last night in Vierge. She was saying to me she's not taking no ferry anymore. I said, but my dear, when you came out and the ferry left to go to Point Seraphine, how long you think a boat takes to Point Seraphine and back? Think about it. You have to wait at least half an hour. So you have to stand up there literally on a line, waiting for the ferry to come back. You just have to wait. You can't expect as soon as you walk out there is a boat waiting for you. We'll have to have some like 30-40 boats just there. And then when operators only get one trip, they don't want to do it. I'm going to wait hours to take one trip to Pigeon Point and back. I won't do it. It has to be worth the while. But we'll work on it, sir.
Quite a few years ago, St. Lucia was touted as number 3 or number 4 with regards to the jazz festival and music festivals in the Western Hemisphere. We are now, I suspect, a far cry from that position. What has happened?
You think so? I don't know. I don't think so. I'll tell you one thing. Other countries and I don't want to, it's something I will never do, mention other countries specifically. But I know what other countries spend on their music festivals. I know. And we probably one of the lowest spenders on music festivals. We are. But I think we pride ourselves on the quality of festival that we have and the vibe that we bring. Now, you might want to go to another country and they'll boast that the show starts at 8 o'clock in the night and finishes at 5 next morning. I don't think that necessarily makes it a better event, that you have all-nighters and you never sleep at all. I don't think so. Some people tell about certain people we should bring and put main stage. There are some people who will not bring main stage because our main stage has a profile, a certain type of artist, a certain type of performance, a certain standard that we expect. So I don't think that we're not the largest spender, but in terms of sophistication, vibe, charm, nobody still can touch us. And how we've even evolved the festival in terms of its community outreach and impact.
It actually was recorded, written, that we were, if memory serves me, I think it was number 4 or number 3 after Toronto.
Yeah, that was one assessment.
Right, but it was written. Now it's not.
Yeah.
So my question still is, where are we and why?
Well, again, I'll tell you that it depends on who you go to for the assessment. It all depends on who you go to. And I'm prepared to if somebody says to me, you're now number 10 and you were number 4, I won't argue with them. That's their assessment, but tell me, why have we moved? What have we done differently? So it all depends on who does the assessment. And I'd love to know different assessments, because we do that every year. We get feedback and we get people to give us assessments of the festival, the ups and the downs of the festival. And I still believe most people we speak to tell us we have the preferred festival. And our numbers show it too. Our numbers show it too.
Good afternoon again. Just to piggyback off a previous question on transportation, bus drivers are complaining that they are not being treated fairly during jazz and carnival. What are you doing to ensure that, how do I say, they are more involved or better accommodated, or what are you willing to say to ease that feeling of they being sidelined during these activities?
I have no idea why they would say that. I don't know, honestly.
Okay, so there's one example. They were saying that they see other motorists using a particular route, and then when they try using that route, the police are saying, no, you cannot pass there. Well, especially during carnival.
Then they should not pass there. Again, I need to get the specifics to really understand and respond to it. I cannot in general. I mean, okay, let me just try and wrap my brains. For example, I had an encounter with a bus driver once at Carnival. They closed the road by Corinth, and they say only revelers are allowed to pass, to go down Shock Hill, to go to take, or everybody else must go around. And he insists he has to go down Shock Road. And the police is saying to him, no, it's only revelers, that are allowed to go. And he said, no, you saw a bus pass there. And because the bus is from the hotel, well, the bus had 15 guests who are revelers. So the bus is going to drop the revelers there. But that doesn't mean you have to pass there. You have regular passengers. You have to take the back road through Corinth. So they always have situations like that. I mean, if they say they block up the road by the top of Corinth and say only revelers and vehicles carrying revelers are allowed to go down to the bottom, that's just what the police say. That's what the point I was making about if you just follow the instructions and the directions, it will work. And I don't know the specific. I don't know why any bus driver would say that they are sidelined. If we engage the Grosley Minibus Association to provide transportation services for the park and rides, if somebody doesn't get a blight, I don't know about that. I wouldn't know. But it's Grosley Minibus Association we would use. So I don't know. I really can't tell. I'd love to know the specifics and see. But there's no attempt to sideline anybody. In fact, we try to encourage. Here's something I really wish we would do. So, and we did it for cricket when we were doing international cricket. At that time, I was in charge of, doing some of the organizing together, like Trevor Phillip and us. If in the valley you have 30 persons coming up for cricket, organize among yourselves 2 free buses from the valley. We give you special passes. You come, you park at the stadium. Everybody going to watch cricket. At the end of it, the minibuses leave. So you get a special pass to park there. So everybody doesn't have to find their way to Castries and then find their way to Grocery, or everybody looking to drive to the stadium. That's the other thing. Lucians like to go with their own vehicle because they tell you when they're ready to go, they just want to get up and go. They don't want to have to wait on other people. But then if a community has 25 people, say from Soufrière, want to go up for jazz, just try and come up with 25 cars or 15 cars. Get a bus, a couple buses, and everybody move carpool. We don't have that concept in St. Lucia of carpooling and people moving together. So I would advise some of the minibus associations that want to feel that they're part and benefit from it to organize community movement, carpooling from the community. So, put out an appeal, say, how many people from Monrepo going up for jazz? And if you find out you have 45, 50, 4 of you all organize 4 buses and get passes and then go right up to the Pigeon Point, things like that. We can do it, and they can now become part of the experience and to make something out of it. I don't know if that even makes sense. Yeah.
One more question for Dr. Hilaire.
Not Hamilton. Huh?
How was Vierge?
Vierge, how was it? Well, I enjoyed myself.
I don't know.
Yeah, you were not there.
No.
But you should have come there. Yeah. Well, the minister will come and tell you about it.
Ryan said he didn't get his pass.
You didn't get your pass? Hamilton wanted his pass.
You are exactly. He was supposed to give it to us, and I did it. You didn't.
Yeah, I can only speak for the national events.
Well, I'll still say it's your responsibility.
Thank you, Dr. Hilaire. As you know, the community of Micoud North hosted their jazz event yesterday, Jazz Vierge. I now invite the MP for Micoud North, Honourable Jeremiah Norbert, to the podium. He's also the Minister for Home Affairs, Crime Prevention, Conflict Resolution and Persons with Disabilities. He will share his insights on the hosting of the event and what it means for the people of Micoud North.
Good morning. Oh, sorry. I heard the last question. The person who posed the last question said good afternoon. So good afternoon, everyone. Yesterday, the community of Micoud North came alive. We hosted our second Jazz Vierge, a very telling moment for the people of Micoud generally, but also for St. Lucians who came in and who got an opportunity to be part of what I think is the best community jazz in St. Lucia right now. I know other parliamentarians may have a different view, but I know patrons yesterday will tell you that Jazz Vierge is indeed the best community jazz in St. Lucia. What we provide to our people, is really telling. Yesterday I saw scores of individuals at Jazz Vierge, which means I saw more people yesterday than I saw last year. So we saw an improvement in our numbers. I don't have the preliminary numbers now, but I can tell you from what I saw last year, what I saw this year, I can almost guarantee you that we saw an improvement in terms of the numbers. So I'm very excited as Parliamentary Representative. But what is even more important for me is the economic opportunities derived from an activity such as Jazz Vierge. Last evening, I walked through what we call Village Micoud, this small little area where we designated for food and beverage. And the truth is, it was really a challenge to be able to get any food. Even after the event, not even scraps were available. Everything, from what I gathered, almost everything from all vendors, all food vendors, were able to sell out, which speaks very well for the people of Micoud. The vendors who were there were not outsiders. They were Micoudians like myself. When you look at the individuals who provide the supplies, all our suppliers, or majority of our suppliers, were from the community. And what we've decided, even as a committee, is to be able to look at the areas where there are gaps in terms of what can the community provide. Because if we are going to make Point Vierge become the mecca in terms of an entertainment hub in the south, the truth is I'd really love to see more young people being partners and being able to benefit. So we look at what we have currently in terms of tents, music, rails, even sound engineers. What do we have in the community? What can we build on? And how can we provide Micoudians with an opportunity to take charge of that event? So that, I mean, we can have a Jazz Vierge where it can be almost, or not that we want to leave anybody out, but I think my vision for Micoud, even coming into politics, I said it very early, I thought it was unfair to us as a community to be able to have such a beautiful natural landscape and for us not to take advantage of it. And I heard someone ask earlier in terms of Pigeon Island and the interference with the landscape. I can tell you that was our biggest consideration, that we don't interfere with the natural landscape. As much as we can, we keep it as serene, as natural as it is. And as Dr. Hilaire said, we don't really, it's not an area, because it's a peninsula, it's not an area where we have any big trees, more shrubs than anything else. What we've been able to pick up was we have some of cactus that's very unique, a barrel cactus unique to that area. What we have done as a community, and I want to take that opportunity to also mention people like ATV Tours and Experience, a gentleman who has benefited from the community tourism initiative. He takes individuals to and from the peninsula to see, because we have a natural imprint of the map of St. Lucia in the rocks. So we have people coming from far and wide to look at that beautiful map that's engraved in the rocks. But what Alvin and the team from ATV have done, usually we have on an annual basis, we used to have what we call bushfires in that area. What they've done to help mitigate against such bushfires, they've gone and they plant trees that can help, and they got help from Invest, from Forestry Department, and we've actually gone and we've planted trees, fat oak trees among others. So in the event that there's a bushfire, that we have a certain level of control, we have like a buffer. So we've actually gone in and we actually planted trees there to be able to help improve the landscape. The idea is to just make it more beautiful, and it is not to interfere with it. And we do not want, sometimes you see somewhere nice and within a few years it becomes a concrete jungle, or you can't even recognize it. The idea is we want anybody, even when Christopher came and he saw what Vierge was, if he comes back, we still want him to recognize Vierge. That means we want minimal interference with Vierge Point, and that is again one of the telling points. So we'll have very minimal interference with the plants that are there. Actually, we're improving it in terms of putting in more plants, but I'm happy that people got an opportunity to experience this part of Micoud, and that is what the community jazz does. I think those of you who remember me speaking about Vierge Point in Parliament, even before we had Jazz Vierge, people were wondering, this man talking about Jazz Vierge going to be envy of jazz in St. Lucia. Where is Vierge? And the truth is, 99% of St. Lucians, even Micoudians, did not even know about Vierge Point. And I felt like, how can you have such a natural resource? You have a community pregnant with opportunity, and for you not to want to tap into it. So we went in there and we were able to host our first Jazz Vierge, and I'm happy that Minister of Tourism has already spoken about bringing main stage, and I think I said that very early too. I predicted that main stage will be coming to Micoud eventually, and I'm still of the firm belief that very soon we will see, with the help of the Minister of Tourism, we will see a main stage event being brought to Micoud. But more than jazz, the conversation started already, and even last night, persons who were present were asking, what is the procedure to be able to utilize this place? What must I do if I want to host an event in this place? And even this morning, before I came down to Cabinet, the conversation in the community in Micoud was predominantly one of positivity. Everybody was so happy. I think this is the first time that we got to see so many people come into the village. Usually it's mass political activities that bring people down to the community like that. And I was happy that we were able to have a national event there. But for me, the takeaway from Jazz Vierge, I'll tell you what it was. Yesterday, very early, I saw Miss Cheryl Francis, who is for many a principal, a mother of three, a wife, sings off and on, but she has a beautiful voice. She has a beautiful voice. And yesterday, Jazz Vierge gave her an opportunity to perform in a crowd bigger than what she performed at the Emmanuel SDA Church. I saw the Micoud Youth Academy dancers. Beautiful, beautiful act. Beautiful performance. Young children from Micoud being trained by Larry Nelson, a Micoudian himself. And Jazz Vierge gave these young people an opportunity to be able to perform in front of thousands of individuals. I saw Bob and Virus, level 4. And those of you who know level 4, I'm sure level 4 will tell you, Bob and Virus will tell you that they were extremely, this is the first time that they've had an opportunity to perform in front of Micoudians, home ground, people that know them, people that saw them grow up. They had an opportunity to perform in front of their people. Massive, massive. And for me, when I listen to the conversation about their performance, they'll say, wow, 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 wow. You mean Bob and Virus still can do that? And I'm saying that and I'm getting goosebumps, because for me it's just a matter of elevating the people of the community, and community jazz gives us that avenue to be able to do that. So when I saw Bob and Virus performing, even Rupert Lee was his ties, and the trio was his ties right there in Micoud, and his performance again telling. Majority of the performances yesterday were from Micoudians themselves. Last year we had General Bakes and the like. The St. Lucie Steel Pan, and I heard Dr. Hilaire speaking about the arts component. Yesterday we had spoken word by Miss Alcide, and we tried to incorporate it. Hopefully as the event grows we can introduce it on an even bigger scale. But I was extremely, extremely happy to see that we had so many people from the constituency being part of the event. So from the artists, and even, I think very important for me to say, is the committee responsible for Jazz Vierge. And I must commend them publicly, because, I mean, people see the final product. They don't see the work that goes in. I mean, prior, you start months of planning, you have person have to liaise with the artists, quite a bit of work have to be done, but we only see the event on the day. But Louise and the team, I mean, I must commend them for a wonderful job. And what is important about it, every one of the individuals on the committee from Micoud. That means we have the talent, we have the ability, we have the capacity to be able to help grow ourselves. We just need the right backing. We need a little more assistance from central government and from the ministry. And I'm sure that we too can almost take on the main. With the current committee that I have, I'm almost convinced that we can take on a main stage. And most importantly is that these individuals are volunteering. They're not doing this for any accolades. They're not doing this for any praise. They're not doing it for any monetary value. There's nothing in it for them except the passion, the desire to want to see my community grow. And I'm happy that we still have that desire, that vibrancy in Micoud North, where we have people who are still willing to volunteer. Because I think that is one of my challenges. Getting people to actually volunteer their time is indeed a huge challenge. To be able to get a committee to come together and to put together such a fantastic display yesterday, I think the committee must be commended, and I want to thank them. And I want to thank the vendors from Micoud who were part of it. And I think this year what we did, we expanded our reach. We also incorporated Micoud South. So we had vendors from Micoud South. You know, we believe in the one Micoud idea. So we ensured that we gave the vendors from Micoud South an opportunity to be part of it. So we didn't just reserve it for, when we speak of Micoud, it's not just restricted to the Tumasse Bridge between Tumasse and Prowling. But we believe in going beyond. The people of Tiroche, Deriso, T2, and all Diga, we invited them and allowed them to be part of what it is that we do in this community, because we believe in the idea of unity and one Micoud.
Good afternoon. You spoke of your takeaways.
Yes.
My takeaways yesterday would have been the park and ride, and the minister spent some time discussing park and ride early on, so we could comment on that. And my second takeaway would have been, you mentioned the food area, but also you had a separate section called Made in Micoud, and I was very impressed with that section. Just comment on those two areas from Jazz Vierge yesterday.
All right, perfect. So unlike some of the challenges that we experience in the north of the island, with people being, I don't want to call it indiscipline, but they don't want to take instructions, if you want to call it that. Micoud was exemplary in terms of the park and ride. I mean, people really followed instructions, and I want to commend the patrons for understanding the dynamics. And I guess when you have somewhere like Jazz Vierge, you have Point Vierge, you want to see it, I think you almost have to fall in line, you know. It almost demands that you fall in line, because you want to see what is there, you want to experience Micoud. But we saw, and It should have been even more difficult with Micoud, because if you realize the size of the road that we had to go in, it does not allow for a free flow of traffic, dual traffic. It does not allow for a free flow. Notwithstanding, I don't think that you'll get much complaints about people getting to and from the venue. One of the challenges we highlighted is, just like Dr. Hilaire said, we may have to consider maybe the police speaking via the VHF radios to allow for when the shuttles are coming in. So when they get to the entrance, to maybe stop all vehicles coming out, maybe just for a minute, just to allow the shuttles to come in so you can move in and out much easier. But generally, people came in, they followed instructions, they used the parking zones, and I was extremely worried. I told Louise yesterday I was worried because at one of the parking zones there was no signage. So I said, but people don't know that by the area close to the police station was a parking zone, so they may not utilize it. And lo and behold, one person went in and everybody followed and they parked properly. As of this morning, we have no report of incidents in terms of accidents or anything of that sort. So in terms of the park and ride, I can say it was a very successful initiative. But moving forward, if we're going to bring in a main stage, we've already identified that one of the challenges we have is a one way in, one way out. So in order to help mitigate and deal with that issue, we've already identified, we've brought in the surveyors and we've looked at a second road. So we're going to be able to have a free flow of traffic. It's just doing a circuit. So everybody come in one way and everybody who leave will pass through the park, come out in the southern end of Micoud. Everybody coming in will enter through the northern end of Micoud, closer to the gas station by Abbey, and come in. So we already, in terms of, and if we want to have a main stage, we expect that there's going to be a lot more people. There's only one thing, when Dr. Hilaire discussed it with me about having a main stage, I said, I think Vierge has already almost, it's become like a brand and experience. We do not want to move away from our name. And I'm making a pledge, even if we have main stage, I don't know what, but with Vierge we cannot move away from the name Vierge. I think it's what makes it authentic. It's well in line with what it is that you're experiencing. Now, the experience Micoud, I think that was a very, very important part of this year's activity. What Experience Micoud did was it spoke about the story of Micoud. So those individuals who come to Vierge, who come for maybe just the music and the vibe, they got an opportunity to know that we actually have a number 10 Downing Street in Micoud. A number 10 Downing Street where there is a preschool. But when you're at number 10 Downing Street, you think of the UK, right? But we actually have ours. We have a Pont Marco. We have an Idlers that has become a communal hub. This is where people come to speak politics. This is where people come. That's where we have some of the biggest political meetings. That is Micoud. So what we were able to do was to tell the story on our first Barclays Bank in Micoud. So we're able to tell the story of Micoud. So apart from just coming in and experiencing Micoud, when you leave knowing a little more about Micoud. Hopefully, it may not quench your thirst, but get you to be a little inquisitive and say, okay, I need to come back. I don't know about that Paul Marco thing. What, Barclays Bank? There's a Barclays Bank in Micoud. The whole idea is to be able to spice up the mind, get you into that mood where you're thinking, because I think very early again in my politics, I said it's unfair to us as Micoudians to be able, I mean, we're paying tax like everybody else, but we're not getting that US dollar being spent in the community. And I'm happy about what Dr. Hilaire is doing with community tourism, because I'm sure people like Priscilla and others who have accommodation in the community, they too were very happy yesterday. Even those individuals who were not vendors at the jazz activity, but because of where they're situated, people had to pass their location. I saw them come outside, and I don't know where they got the goods, but they were selling yesterday. So I mean, they saw it as an opportunity, and they profited from the opportunity. And that's the whole idea, to be able to provide individuals with that avenue where they can actually, where everyone can benefit. But the experience Micoud, I think that's very telling, and I think the only thing we can do from there is really build on that, so we can tell the story of Micoud. The idea is to, and we actually put signage all around the community, and the idea was to give people a tour. Hopefully next year we can execute it a little better, where people come in early, patrons come in early, you can take an ATV tour, and we can take you to 5 or 6 different places in Micoud before actually taking you to the jazz as an addition, an added value activity that comes from Vierge. So we can tell you the story of Micoud, tell you the rich history that Micoud entails, so that when you leave there, you can go back and tell somebody, when you pass Pont Marco, I can't tell you here, I can't tell the press what Pont Marco it got its name, but if you go there, somebody can tell you how Pont Marco got its name, and somebody can tell you how the Idlers, who came up with the name the Idlers, and what happens on number 10 Downing Street, and what happens at the old Barclays Bank. We have Les Captain that has rich history in itself, rich history that has not been told, and we have generations of Micoudians who just breezing through, who have no idea. They just know my mother lives at Les Captain. And that's all they know. My mother lives, but they don't know the story behind us captain. So the whole idea is to be able to tell the authentic story, and that when individuals come, they can get an authentic experience as to what Micoud has to offer.
That's it.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have a question. One more.
I was hoping you could speak in your capacity as Minister for Persons with Disabilities. What is the process when applying for prosthetic limbs, and is there a timeline to receive it?
Okay, so prior to this government coming into office, what existed was anybody who wanted a prosthetic limb went through the National Council for Persons with Disabilities. They were the body who dealt with prosthetic limbs. However, the truth is they depend on what we call donated parts, and sometimes they may have issues in terms of procurement and whatnot. We realized that it may be an issue, and we felt as a government that, I mean, one should be able to access a prosthetic limb locally if he or she requires. So what we did, we went into a memorandum of understanding with Montero Medical Mission, also with the Rotary Club, and with Medical and Associates, Tapio Hospital. Tapio Hospital gave us the space. As we speak, we've done all the retrofitting of the space. The equipment for that space is on the way. We're actually going to start training people in the month of May, and hopefully I want to give you a realistic timeline, by July, August, we should be in a position where we can actually produce prosthetic. The whole idea behind is to ensure that prosthetics are affordable. And every individual who requires one can get one. That is why we're also establishing a national disability registry, so that we can have data-driven type of activity. Because a lot of times we just guess and we just throw out numbers there, but we don't have the data, evidence-based data that we can say, okay, we have 180 people in St. Lucia who require prosthetics. So when we set up that registry, the whole intention is that we can capture that data and we can provide prosthetics for persons who require, and at a much more affordable rate. Currently, it costs on average for somebody who may require basic below knee prosthetic, it costs on average just a little over $6,000. That's with donated parts. That's not with new parts. We want to cut that cost by almost 80%. And that is why we went into a collaboration with, and I want to commend Medical Associates, Tapio and the team, for giving us that space, a very accessible space. As soon as you get to the parking lot, hopefully we will be bringing the media next week or thereafter to take a tour of the facility, see how far we've come in terms of retrofitting the space. And as soon as the equipment is here, we're going to install it and we're going to start right away. One of the good things is that we actually have St. Lucians here who are already trained, who have the capacity to be able to produce prosthetics. They can build prosthetics, and I think 4 out of the 5 individuals who are trained in that field are actually prosthetic users themselves. So I actually have Daniel Frederick from my constituency, Live Up from Denry, Murray Nelson, who actually trained in the manufacturing and building of prosthetics. One of the agencies from the Memorandum of Understanding, they're going to come in, they're going to train more St. Lucians. I think they're going to spend about a year and a half here, train St. Lucians, get them certified as well. So some St. Lucians will be traveling to get certified in terms of prosthetic manufacturing, and they will be able to come back, and hopefully we can see St. Lucians take over the entire industry and the entire business over time. So the whole idea is get them trained, build the capacity, train more St. Lucians, and we should be able to provide them a St. Lucian for prosthetic within, and it doesn't take long, to be quite honest with you. I think what takes longer is the time from surgery to healing properly. So the weight is not usually on the prosthetic, but in order for you to be able to wear a prosthetic, there's a process, and persons may have to understand how it works. I can speak personally about it. When after the surgery is done, you have to wait for a certain level of shrinkage to happen. So you have to put in some compression socks and whatnot, and that may take, everybody's body may react differently. So whereas it may take me 2 months, it may take somebody else 5 to 6 months to just be able to get that right shrinkage going based on how your body reacts and whatnot. However, the actual making of the prosthetic is something that can happen within a week. Within a week to 10 days, you can have your prosthetic tried, fitted, adjusted, and come back and do any adjustments, and you can be walking within 10 days. So it's not a long period. What takes the time is the process before going and try the prosthetic. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Preparation of the 2026 policy statement has been the most challenging since independence. However, this will not be allowed to deter this government's commitment to meeting the aspirations of its people. The war in the Middle East have meant that the global economic uncertainty and rising oil prices will become a local economic impediment for as long as this situation continues. This is why, Mr. Speaker, I have been urging the people of St. Lucia to take responsibility for the things that are within their control and not allow themselves to be misled. In these circumstances, we need emphatic, focused, and responsible leadership that understands that the good of the country should supersede any individual or political party interest. We are not a government of excuses. We are a government which delivers on its promises. The men and women on this side pledge to work together to make our island, St. Lucia, the best place to live and work in the region. Mr. Speaker, we are also being faced with an unspoken challenge across the world, and increasingly so at home. We are witnessing a quiet but consequential shift of falling birth rates. Mr. Speaker, because of rising prices, economic uncertainty, and shifting work patterns, many young people are delaying or reconsidering parenthood. The cost of housing, childcare, healthcare, and other necessities have altered the calculus of family life. For too many, the decision to have a child no longer an aspiration, but a question of affordability. Mr. Speaker, if we are to secure our future as a nation, we must confront this reality with deliberate and forward-looking policies. A decline in birth rate has implications for our labor force, our productivity, and the sustainability of our social and economic systems. Simply put, it will affect the very structure of our society in the years to come. This government will be encouraging responsible discussion. This government will be encouraging responsible discussion to advise on a comprehensive policy to address this issue. This year, a business facilitation unit will be established in the Department of Commerce to oversee the implementation of the Ease of Doing Business agenda. Mr. Speaker, a long-standing issue for the private sector has been an electronic single entry window. This issue has been on the table for discussion for almost 20 years. This is a significant ease of doing business cost reduction initiative for the private sector, which will eliminate duplication of entries, multiple applications for licenses or permits with broader agencies, and in-person visits to submit applications or payments.
I heard the Prime Minister speak of the Love St. Lucia campaign, and I smiled when he did it, and we smiled because it is a popular refrain of his that we must, grow what we eat and eat what we grow, Mr. Speaker. And we must harvest more water, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, on page 64 in the budget address, the Prime Minister made a very specific point.
This year, the Love St. Lucia campaign will encourage hotels and citizens to love and consume more of what we produce. We will eat what we grow. We will grow what we eat. We will use what we produce, and consume locally produced products.
If we teach our people to love what we produce, to consume what we produce, it reduces our reliance on foreign products, Mr. Speaker. It means we give more space for our manufacturing sector to grow and to develop, because our people are demanding what it is that we are producing. And they will also put pressures on us to produce what they want, Mr. Speaker. So whilst we are building up businesses, we're giving them the capacity to get financing, to expand their capabilities. We are telling our people to demand from them the things that they want to consume, Mr. Speaker. And we're starting, Mr. Speaker, to complete the circle.
Thursday, April 30th, the St. Lucia Jazz and Arts Festival 2026. Opening night ignites at the Phillip Park, and we're blazing the trail with the King of Fire, Capleton.
Say more fire. Slew them up, bare feelings them a carry. Them done bow already and then
Capleton.
Jaja City, Jaja Town, them off it on it in a cowboy town.
Smooth and melodic Diani. Dancehall's bold new voice, Valiant. The King of Bouillon, Asa Bantan. Country power with international stars.
You say that your new love's not
Amber Digby. St. Lucian country icons, LM Stone and Siobhan Seeley. Plus a special tribute to Kaiso legends. Thursday, April 30th at the Phillip Park. Be there. Tickets online at stluciajazzandartsfestival.com and physical tickets at regular outlets.
The budget address for 2025-2026 fiscal year was delivered last week, setting out the government's policy direction and priorities for the year ahead. This was followed by the debate in Parliament, where members had the opportunity to examine, question, and contribute to the proposals presented. The Prime Minister, who is also the Minister for Finance, Justice, National Security, Constituency Development and People Empowerment, will now provide additional clarity on the budget policy address. You will also get a chance to ask your questions when he is done.
Gentlemen and lady, good morning, good afternoon. As you know, the appropriation bill went through all the stages in the Parliament, in the lower house on Friday, and we saw spirited debate and contributions by members. I just wanted very briefly to go through, to mention a few issues that I know have been creating quite a bit of public discussion, and I thought it would be good if I just went through the main one. It's one of the policy proposals for mothers of registered newborn babies will receive a one-time grant of $1,000 effective August 1st, 2026. That was the first one. But there are some below it that everybody seems not to have seen. A review of parental leave provisions following childbirth to better support families. 3. Review of the Affiliation Maintenance Act. 4. Expand the school feeding program to ensure greater nutritional support for students. And in the budget address, the exact words that we use referring to the matter of the matter I just raised, it read, and I just want to read it for you. It says that in the matter of population, it says that we need to begin a mature conversation. And that was clear that what you asked for was a conversation. The Minister of Finance wasn't proclaiming. He was asking, these are the facts, and then he was asking for a conversation, a mature conversation. These were the exact words in the budget speech. And I trust everybody has a copy of the budget speech. So if you look through it, you will see that the Minister of Finance was saying that we should have a mature discussion. He was not pronouncing, he was saying, but in the meantime, the Minister of Finance made available $1,000 to help in the meantime. And that has been a policy not only new to St. Lucia in Barbados, that was also done to assist newborn babies. Because whether we like it or not, the fact is there are concerns about the population growth in this island. That's a fact. And then it's the things we have to, and what we asked for was a mature discussion by the country. That's what we asked for. We didn't make any pronouncements. And the other thing I want to note, you to note, is the tax amnesty. I think it's the most generous tax amnesty ever given for a long time. And you may recall, as the address says, that we waived taxes for anyone who owed taxes from the year 2000. All these taxes were waived. And then we had one tax amnesty that lasted to December 2023, and now we waived it to December 2025. All interest, fines, and penalties on taxes due up to December 2025 were waived, but the taxpayer was given an opportunity to go into the Inner Revenue and negotiate the payment plan and up to December 2026. So you have up to December 26 to go in and discuss it with the Inner Revenue, your payment plan, and you have up to December 2027 to pay it. And I want to also remind you that 13,900 taxpayers have benefited from the amnesty so far. And the government has collected $100 million. And these taxpayers have saved over $347 million. Another interesting phenomenon in the budget which I want to raise for you is that first-time landowners, young professionals who buy land for the first time, young people, particularly young people, that's another aspect of our youth policy, who are buying land for the first time, they can get a 50% deduction on their interest. Before, you only got if you bought land, you got no waiver of interest. Now you get your interest waiver, and even though you've reached the threshold of $40,000, which I'm sure many young people will not meet, you still have that extra. So it's an extra allowance for you if you meet, even though you meet a threshold. So that's an encouragement to buy land, to buy a piece of your country, to own a piece of your country. It's a reason, that's an initiative by the government to do that. Added all the other benefits of house owning, people who own their houses. So I just thought I would highlight these three policy changes, and also the 5 CXC subjects now, so every child can matriculate. So no child in the country would say they cannot advance their education because they can't pay their CXCs. That's the thing of the past. You need 5 subjects to matriculate, and then we pay the 5 subjects. So no child in the country, no child, literally no child is left behind. Every child from every house can have an opportunity to advance my education, because the government is paying all the 5 subjects for them. And then we, in our pursuit for agricultural development and diversification, this is my emphasis on water harvesting. It's some of the incentives we give. And we also are giving $25,000 to the young people at Sir Arthur Lewis, $250,000 to the young people at Sir Arthur Lewis Community College to get the agricultural station going, the agricultural research unit. We gave them a grant of $250,000 to get the Center of Agricultural Development, to ensure that we maintain the mantra or the philosophy of growing what you eat and eating what you grow. The emphasis
on early childhood, and this is why I told you to look at it, don't look at it in isolation, because in early childhood you could be saying that we're emphasizing early childhood education, all coming with the whole population issue. You will notice that the development, maternal care, free maternal care for mothers, etc., moving up, and then we come to a stage now where early childhood education. Another proposal, the idea, the government, we did the Swift Justice program where we have a special court to get cases through the system quickly, and now we are offering 2 policemen in 2 years, 2 scholarships to study law. The intention is that they return to work as prosecutors. That is part of when they are awarded the scholarship, part of the conditions is they come back and get a police station, get a police force, 5 years of service, and as lawyers to beef up the police prosecution. The whole continuation of ensuring that justice is done, and justice delayed is justice forgone. So we're working on these issues. So I guess I just thought I'd mention these proposals for you, but I'm sure you have copies of the budget, of the appropriation bill, and you can make your own deductions. I'll take any questions if you have any.
Good morning, Prime Minister.
Good morning.
Good afternoon, rather. So speaking a little bit on the problem of population growth, beyond the birth of more St. Lucians, has the government considered migration as a strategy to stabilize the population?
No, we have not. We have not, because the issue is that problem seems to be around the region, around the world. We have that problem, and Barbados is an example where it's a very chronic problem in Barbados. And I was just reading about something about Japan, I think, where they are having an incentive to young people to go on dates. I don't know if you reached that stage here yet. But, I don't know if Jerry can answer that.
Jerry wants to go on dates? Jerry's a married man.
Oh, I did say anything. I said dates. So I have not been considered yet. No, not yet.
Nonetheless, especially with regards to the changing global situation, has the government at all looked at its migration policies and how easy it is for someone to immigrate or work in St. Lucia? Have there been any plans with regards to that otherwise?
Well, we are part of the OECS Freedom of Movement treaty where people can come in and work and carry up to 6 months. So I guess what we've not signed on to the declaration like Dominica and Barbados and some other countries where people get automatic entry. We've not done that. Something that we have to consider, but it's something that has to be discussed and something that has to come under scrutiny, because we have this, some people believe that the country, some people have very emotional attachment to people coming into their countries, but that's why it's open for discussion. And if you notice, I just wanted to read that what I said. The government will be encouraging responsible discussion to advise on a comprehensive policy to address this issue. That is extremely important. We're saying that we are encouraging responsible discussion. So all what you asking them is something that will be part of the discussion, migration, etc. But but as usual, people like to look at things that they believe will make political mischief. When you talk about the government giving $1,000 to make children, that is really not true. It was never true. And then the build up to it shows that it is not true. But in this season, I don't know what season we're in now. Jazz. I was sure the minister was about jazz, gave you a very good outline. But I was wondering, sometimes it's baffling the way people extend things that so simple, responsible discussion on a problem we have. We have a problem. Let's admit it. Not my problem. We have a problem. The country has a problem. It has an issue. So let's sit down and come and discuss it and look at the various aspects. This is not political. It will affect any prime minister. It will affect any party. It's an issue. You understand? That's why I'm pleading for discussing these issues. And that's why it's very important that we put away December the 1st. December the 1st happened already. It won't come back. Let's discuss the issues of the country. They don't affect me. This doesn't affect me personally. It affects the country. So when you muddy the waters and you create unnecessary confusion with issues that are straightforward and simple. That's what we say about the population. Let's have a discussion. That's all we say. Nothing else. Yes, Mr. Buski.
Actually, I think you have 0.6% of getting criticism on the budget presented. I'd rather us look at a situation happening today that has implications for the upcoming CARICOM summit that will be hosted in St. Lucia. As we speak, the Vice President and Acting Vice President of Venezuela is in Barbados. And as we also speak, the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago is on an official visit to Venezuela.
On a visit?
On a visit from the 26th of April to the 1st of May. As we speak, the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, according to official information released to the press in Venezuela. Within the context of the upcoming summit, I do know that you closed the 50th summit in St. Kitts with concerns about the insufficiency of, or the apparent insufficiency of recognition that climate change can change whatever we're doing within an hour or a day. But since then, the world energy crisis has created extra problems that will have implications for your summit. So from the standpoint of you going to be the chairman, to what extent do you think that that summit will be able to bring Trinidad and Tobago and Venezuela closer to CARICOM?
Well, I've made a point several times before that foreign policy is not, there is no uniformity. There's never been uniformity in foreign policy of the region. Now it's been blown up more than before. There's not been uniformity. You may recall the Grenada Revolution. When there was the invasion of Grenada, there was no uniformity. But the countries, every country looks after its own interests. If these interests align with CARICOM, all good and well. If they don't align with CARICOM, then the country has a sovereign right. That is not a political union. It's a union. It's an economic union. So if a country decides that they want to have diplomatic relations with another country, or not have it, it's left to the sovereign government itself. I wasn't aware that there was that visit to Venezuela by Trinidad and Tobago. I wasn't aware, albeit it's in the interest of both countries to have these relations. St. Lucia has, I've made a point several times that St. Lucia has a right to choose its own friends. We always reserve that right. We don't interfere with what happens in other countries, and we reserve the right to have our own friends. So I think so it shows that there's been some form of difference happening now between Venezuela and Trinidad and Tobago, if that's true. Albeit they are neighbors, the Caribbean neighbors. So if Venezuela and oil producers. And if Venezuela and Grenada have don't use the word rapprochement, Venezuela and Trinidad have a new rapprochement, albeit St. Lucia is very happy for our region being a peaceful region. We're very happy about it. But as I said, we reserve the right to choose our own friends.
On the
We have
matter
to
of
do
climate
that.
financing,
Yes.
you have responsibility for
I have.
environment and climate change matters within CARICOM. The issue of climate financing is one that most CARICOM governments have concerns about, whether it should be approached individually or as a community. Are there any plans for a discussion of a common approach to, one, climate financing, and secondly, financing for reparations?
Okay. Climate financing, it's almost reached a point of frustration, because you go to these meetings, you go to COP, and they make all these lofty promises of billions of dollars, and it doesn't happen. I know there's some people in St. Lucia who are very skeptical, to use a light word, about climate change and climate financing and things. And I read these things with interest. But fact is, we have climate issues that we have to deal with. Fact is, St. Lucia took its own position in that, whereas we are part of that body that wants to deal with global climate financing from a global point of view. We've taken our own position. We formed our own sovereign wealth fund to deal with climate adaptation and climate mitigation. I mean, these are the steps that St. Lucia has taken. We've again, much to the annoyance of the opposition, we took that position, our sovereign wealth fund. And I want to tell you that we're going to be making our first contribution to the sovereign wealth fund from the CIP program. That first contribution is going to be done shortly, when we're going to start our sovereign wealth fund, to show the world that whereas we wish and we hope that there is global acceptance and global delivery. There's always acceptance, but it's global delivery on climate financing, global delivery on mitigation and adaptation methods, global delivery on having climate clauses in our loan arrangements. St. Lucia negotiated a climate clause in the loan with Saudi Arabia for St. Jude Hospital. So we want these climate clauses in the loans. So if there's a disaster, at least suspension of that loan. So we are working for it. We're working towards it, but we are not going to be raising a flag and saying global financing for climate change, particularly for small islands like ours, will never be at the level that it ought to be. Some countries help unilaterally, between country and country, bilaterally, but in terms of the billions of dollars promised for climate change, we are very skeptical that ever will happen.
Just going back a bit and to piggyback on those questions, no doubt you, from time to time, made it clear that CARICOM is an economic union. As the incoming chairman, would it be part of your agenda to ensure that this economic union becomes something more?
A single market.
Yes.
That would be my dream. I made a statement last week or 2 weeks before the budget. I want a few simple things to happen. You see, we've been dealing with a lot. I tell you something. People have been dealing with a lot of big things, which are necessary, huge issues, global issues. But there are a few little issues, simple issues that we have to deal with in the region, right? Things like a uniform arrest warrant. Arrest a man in St. Lucia, then once you find so he's arrested in Trinidad, if he's needed in Trinidad, if you need in Barbados. Things like witness protection. There are little things that could make life a lot better for us, right? Little things little things that exist in the Treaty of Chagaramas that we have to get going. We have to put the law is there, but we have to make it practical. We have to make it workable. We have to make the processes work. These, I would be happy if in my tenure I could get these things done. Putting some processes and procedures that are very simple to follow, and decisions can be taken and followed up. I'd like to see if we can get a follow-up on decisions. Like decisions taken this year, what's the follow-up next year or next term? You understand? These are the simple things. And I said, I'd like to see us talk more to each other. That which is very simple but very telling. You understand? Very telling. And I would like these things to happen. But I believe that CARICOM is necessary. CARICOM is necessary for us as a country, as a people, but CARICOM the people must feel directly the benefits from CARICOM more than they are seen, because some of us take these benefits for granted. CXC, that's CARICOM. You take it for granted. You understand? This is a functional corporation that's working very well, but we take it for granted. And so in my tenure, I like to see little things happen. So my tenure is not going to be a tenure built on grandiose statements and these kind of things. I want to be very focused on making the legacy in CARICOM work properly, make CARICOM, give CARICOM a new sense of because the regional things, CARICOM is fragmented, and I don't think so. I think CARICOM is alive. I think CARICOM is a work in progress. It's not a situation. If you get, as you think that CARICOM is in disarray. I don't take that position. I don't think that position. I think the matters of CARICOM can be solved if you would just talk to each other. Just put up all the mics and get in the room. And in fact, let me tell you what I would like. No, I wouldn't say that. If I say what I like, you would quote me incorrectly. What I'd like a CARICOM meeting to be this year. You understand? I won't tell you. But that's what I think it should be. You understand? But I won't tell you anything. I think CARICOM needs to be, let men sit down and talk. You understand? Away from all the cameras and all the things. I think if you could achieve that, men sit down and everybody. And another thing again, I would hope that all prime ministers attend CARICOM meetings. I would really hope so. At all prime ministers attend CARICOM meetings. It's something that, I'm guilty. I didn't go to Jamaica because I had elections to run. Because if I didn't win the elections, I would have no CARICOM meeting. So I guess other prime ministers have that same situation. But I really think that all prime ministers should attend and remain. Take 2 days for CARICOM. A simple thing, eh? See how simple that sounds? We don't achieve it. We don't achieve it. Very simple thing. Come and spend 2 days with each other. We don't achieve it. You understand? So I just want the legacy in CARICOM to work.
Talking about grandiose ideas, what are your thoughts on CARICOM in some way, measure or form as a political union?
That's the ideal, but we have to deal with reality. It's the ideal. That's the ideal. But the reality is that would be very, very difficult to achieve. But you don't know who can lead that? The young people of the region. The young people. They're the ones who can cause that to happen. They're the ones who can. But it's a reality. It's a ideal. Because collectively, look at the wealth of that region. Good level of the region. Very wealthy, We're small, but we're wealthy. But we got to bring together. Ghana has enough resources to feed the entire region. In fact, Ghana can take on the whole region and have a lot of space. Ghana is larger than England. You know that? It has more land space. Ghana, 3 times. Suriname. These 2 countries, if you've ever been to Suriname,
vast, and these people have net carbon as a situation where they give the world, they have, in terms of the environment, Guyana and Suriname alone, 2 vast countries. So CARICOM can work. Won't happen in my lifetime, but I'm sure that the time will come when young people will take over and the young people will ensure that CARICOM works. And CARICOM works, but I have faith and I believe it can work. Tony.
Good morning, good afternoon,
Yes,
Mr. Prime Minister. You spoke earlier on about some people seem to think that CARICOM is not alive, no longer alive, and you just mentioned young people, the perception of CARICOM. But it goes back to some of the simple things you mentioned. If the simple things are not working, then the perception is that it's dead. A personal experience of mine, we've been speaking about, there's in place the CARICOM skill certificate for certain sectors, including the media. I won't go into detail about my personal frustration with that process locally. So my question basically, and I've asked you that question before, the free movement of people. As an incoming chairperson, do you think that is something that you'll put high up on your agenda so that by the end of your tenure as the chairman of CARICOM, for St. Lucia at least, St. Lucia is added onto the list of countries that facilitates the free movement of people?
Yes, that is something that we have to work on. And you're right, the little things. But again, each country has its own individual political situation. You see, what causes the problem is that you go regionally and you make these statements, and when you come politically, because all politics is local, You understand?
So December 1st is gone. You now have the mandate.
Yes, right.
Yes.
St. Lucia didn't sign for the regionals, the freedom of movement carte blanche. We signed it. We didn't sign for the carte blanche situation, but we signed for discussion after 2 or 3 years, I think. I can promise you it's going to be back on the agenda.
Okay.
I can promise you that, and then we're going to let the people discuss. We're afraid. Let me tell you why we're afraid to discuss these things. Because it's the same thing with referendum. This is getting involved in partisan politics, and the issue gets clouded in partisan politics, and all politics is local. So you have to tiptoe into these things, because but freedom of movement, it's something that nobody will flock into St. Lucia. But I promise you that we'll meet up front, and then we'll probably have some general discussion so people can know what St. Lucia is going to sign up to.
Okay, my second question, our neighboring territory of Martinique has been given the green light to become part of CARICOM. Just your views on that, seeing that there are
significant neighbors. We share a language that we can understand, and we are going to some serious bilateral trade arrangements with Martinique. There are some 15 crops, or not 15 products that can be produced in Martinique, and the exchange of products. That these discussions are actively going on. So that's one of the first steps we've taken in strengthening our relationships with Martinique. You know about the medical cooperation, which you want to expand. So it's a very important step for St. Lucia, particularly in Dominica, in that we're very close and we share the same language. We look forward to that essential.
Good afternoon, Mr. Prime Minister.
Good afternoon.
So if we can just go back a little bit as well to the budget statement as well. So after your statement on Tuesday and speaking with the public, one of the public's major concerns, especially when it comes to the $1,000 grant, especially to expecting mothers, was that the $1,000 may not be enough to actually supplement some certain aspects as well. Now, though that the government would be speaking as well as having mature conversations about other tactics that can be implemented as well. And I also know the Ministry of Health has universal health care. That would be also for free ultrasounds for mothers. My question would be, what else has the government been speaking on in terms of conversations that can be implemented that can coincide as well with the $1,000 grant as well?
Well, the $1,000 grant was never meant to be enough, you know. Never meant to be enough. It was, you see, people of lower income people, when they go to when they have their babies are expensive, right? Now we think we remove the VAT, understand, and I can stand corrected that there is no VAT on baby pampers. These steps. So the $1,000 grant is just an incentive to help people in their initial expenses. It wasn't meant. It is not a reward, nor is it a payment, nor it is not something that they give you. They give you because the government wants you to make children. No, it's just support in the initial stages, so you can have some money to buy the initial things for your baby. It's far from enough. It was never meant to be enough, nor was it meant to be any situation where the government is giving you an incentive to make babies. But what it is, it's support for you, for mothers, if they, especially low-income mothers or unemployed mothers. And we face it all the time, unemployed people, and then it's in document. They say childbearing now is no longer aspirational. It's affordability. And this is why, and you must look at how we treated it. Early child education. This is an important aspect that we seem to be not looking at because we're concentrating on what might sound politically exciting. Look at the steps we're saying that early child education, so mothers can leave their children in a responsible place with responsible people, and that is why the minister announced the curriculum for early childhood, so children can get a proper education. We said we'd give incentives to businesses who took care, who had facilities to take care of children. It's a whole set of steps you're taking, and $1,000 is just one part of it.
All right.
Yes.
So once again, Labor Day is this week. So what would you say the future looks like for labor relations and trade union organizations in St. Lucia?
As I said in my budget statement, and excuse me if I say that, in my opinion, workers are better off on the labor. That's my opinion. And we've shown that to some tangible things. The minimum wage. This is a revolutionary step that says, listen to me, and it's something that we did not as a government. And I understand the representatives of the union, the private sector, said, listen to me, there's going to be a minimum wage. The time may come when you have to review the minimum wage. We had negotiations with the public servants after 13% increases. I understand that there is a new police welfare president and a police welfare association. I wish them well. I hope they represent the interests of police officers only. Because, I have a sentimental attachment to the police. I have been pillared by a particular radio station for saying that. I'll say it again. My father was a policeman, so no matter how you pillar me or you attack me for that's a fact. He's proven to be my father, and he was a policeman. So I have this emotional attachment. So I hope that the Police Welfare Association see about the welfare of policemen, and I underline the word, the welfare of policemen, and we'll give them all the support and the help. We've completed all the negotiations as it relates to the collective agreement. The last one we did was the police belts. The police have been clamoring for a new belt. The belts are here. Every policeman will be fitted with his belt. You stop hearing anything about protective armor, the vest, the bulletproof vest. Every policeman now has access to one. So the government isn't, the welfare work is clear. We made a revolutionary action. We made more than 1,000 people who were contract workers permanent. And the far-reaching effects of that must sink. There were people, to get a loan, the loan had to be tailored to meet their working conditions. So if you have a 2-year contract, the loan is 2 years. As I told you before, there are people, when they showed me the pay slip, they used to get $90. You know, because the pay slip, they had to have the loan for the pay slip. Another thing is, we're going to be giving thousands of people land free. Workers, people who've been living on the land for more than 30 years, the Crown is giving them title. And that title means free of charge. The government is paying for the lawyers to prepare the deed of sale. Again, far-reaching. Here is somebody now who has a piece of land. They can take a mortgage, they can send their children to school on the mortgage, they can extend it, etc. Far-reaching things for workers. So when I said the workers in this country are better off on the labor, I can do it by tangible. But we ask for give and take, we ask for understanding, we ask the situation that we don't live in the world alone. We're not the ones who create the price of oil. So we ask for that, but I really believe the workers of the country are better off on the labor.
Good day, Prime Minister. Just two things. I'm not too sure. Just two things. I'm not too sure if you saw what happened over the weekend in Dominica with the weather. Just your reaction.
Well, this morning, I was speaking to a prime minister, and he told me so. I did not. Very sad to say, I didn't know that. You know.
Yesterday.
I'm going to call my friend, the Prime Minister of Dominica. I'm going to call him when I leave here. I didn't know that. I heard there was devastation. I did not. What time happened?
I'm not too sure as to the time. I just know it was a lot of flooding, very bad weather.
Very. I want to empathize with the Prime Minister. I'm going to call him later. I did not know that. But that must have happened in the afternoon.
Daytime, yes.
Yeah, because I was speaking to him in the morning. Yesterday was Sunday. Yeah, we had discussion in the morning. What's happening in the afternoon? I'm going to give him a call. Yeah.
But just your reaction that we have our hurricane season coming.
Yes, climate again. My age-old thing I say all the time: stop throwing garbage in the rivers. Very simple things. That's not political. That don't give me more votes. Flooding. I don't know if it will make a situation. I don't know. I can't proclaim. I'm sure if there is a rain event in St. Lucia, the flooding that will take place partly, and don't misquote me, partly will be because of the dumping of garbage in the waterways. It must be. Why aren't we responsible and stop dumping garbage in the waterways? Why is that so simple? We cannot do it. We can't do it. A very simple thing. We just say to you, do not dump your garbage in the waterways. Very simple. I'm not saying it will stop flooding, but it will mitigate against some of the damage. Let me give you another situation. People build their house on the riverbank, want the government to build a wall. Why must someone build a house? And there's a gentleman who is on the radio every Friday saying the government doesn't look after him and things so. It's not my duty to bring the press to tell the press what to do. I like the press to go and see where a gentleman lives and see his recent addition to his house, where he put it. So see where he put the latest addition to his house. I want to see. So where is the responsibility for our own actions, miss? So Dominica, as I said, I'm going to call, very concerned. I don't know whether you can give, I'm not sure what's the extent, but if you can help our colleagues in Dominica, we surely will. If you can offer any help, I do not know what's the end result of the damage. But again, hurricane season is in June. Begin pruning your trees. Again, people don't want to prune their trees. The branch falls on top of the house. Blame the government. All we're saying is prune it. Don't continue to prune it. So if it falls, the damage is not going to be as intense. Just prune it. That's what we say to prune it. Prune it. If you can put some extra guttering on your house, help you in your water harvesting, and it will stop the water falling in your foundation. These are very simple things, you know. Now don't tell me things are hard you can't afford. A piece of guttering to put on the side of a house is the equivalent of a few beds. It's like if you say, well, I'm not making 2 rounds of bed, this is one bed. You can put up some guttering. There's something that the economist calls the opportunity cost. There's a cost of doing everything. If you want to get a degree, the cost is you study, right? So we're asking the public to prepare for the hurricane season. Very simple things: garbage dumping, pruning your trees. You can put some guttering in front of your houses. Do it. You can kill a gutter in front of your house. Right now, people want the government to pay to clean in front of the house. You understand? Part of the first things in Singapore, when you talk about Singapore, every man cleaned in front of his house and planted flowers. Everybody. With one constitution solution now, whereas people dump garbage and you must pay them to take it out. Sad, but true. Hurricane season, small steps. The government will be doing its usual desilting. The government will be doing its usual slope stabilization works, but I'm imploring that the people take the small steps for themselves.
Yes, and at the same time, we're also getting reports that in the next few months we'll have drier climate, so there's also that.
Catch-22, so we must harvest your water. Yes.
Final question, PM, under your regional responsibility for climate change. We hear about preparations for the 30th COP. Has any decision been taken on where it's going to be held? And is there any chance that a COP can take place in the Caribbean?
There's a chance. In fact, there's a country that I think has asked to host it. That works, but I'm not at liberty to say which country. But I think it's going to be held. Where's COP going to be held? I wasn't there. I was at COP the last time, but there already has been yes, and then it's going to be held. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Once again, we thank you for being here today, and we have come to the end of this Monday's pre-cabinet press briefing. Have a good day.